So anyway,
Yeah. So
Old
what were we
World.
talking about? Old World. Oh, right. The tutorial sucks, but it's still in beta, so I'm hoping that eventually they get, the hang
Better.
of it.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, yeah, it was.
What was? Well, I mean, people can go watch the stream, but what was like the high level summary of what that game is?
So it's kind of like Civ 5.
Oh, okay.
But instead of a turn being, because it is turn based, instead of a turn being, 100 years
Yeah,
or something.
depends on when you're in
Depends
the game.
on, like, when you are. It is 1 year.
Oh, always.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you are a leader, an actual historical leader.
Okay.
So I was Philip II, who's Alexander the Great's father.
I never knew that.
Yeah, and then you settle cities.
It clearly
just
wasn't that
like
great.
The settling thing looks just like Civ.
Okay.
Except you only have certain areas that you can really settle in, as opposed to recommended areas. It was like, this is the only place you can settle in.
Oh, because like coincide with like where you were supposed to be.
Yeah, kind of. Well, it doesn't like historically follow, but it's whatever. So
Okay.
I founded Athens, and then you can have families, and there are families that you have to like appease within your civilization. But then there's also outside, so other players.
Oh,
right?
sure.
Computer players. That are also there. Yeah, Will watched it. He said it was pretty fun.
Oh,
and
cool.
I think Allison bought it for her dad for Father's Day even. So, hey.
I really wish my dad was
Old
into
world,
games.
hire
It'd be
me.
so much easier to get him stuff.
Yeah, it was. More dads do need hobbies.
Yeah.
I feel like my dad did not have much of a hobby.
My dad apparently golfs now. I don't know. He got a card.
That sounds boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do with that?
I went golfing with him once and I embarrassed him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Like, we were on a hole where there was just like a decorative little pond.
Yeah.
That was not meant to be an obstruction because it was like only like 20 yards out from the tee, and I hit a ball into it like 4 times in a row. And there were people waiting to play through behind us, and my dad was like, let's just go on the other side of the green. It's bad.
Ouch.
Anyway,
Sorry, dude.
so Discovery Tours.
Yeah, so last time we did Knossos, right? That was the one that I talked about for way too long.
Yes.
And then we did...
Did we only do
Urban
2 last
Homes
time?
in Athens? Yeah, we
Okay.
only did 2, because I talked way too much. So I can cut that out. It's fine.
Sorry, mine was more of a joke about, can you?
Yeah. No, probably cannot. Probably cannot. We're looking at the bird's butt right now, too.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't paying attention. Well, here, we'll go to the Discovery Tour menu.
All right.
So we're like halfway done with each of them, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. So we could have chat pick.
I like when chat picks.
I do too. So chat, daily life, politics and philosophy, art, religion and myths, battles and wars or famous cities.
Are we doing the old system where it's just first person to type in an answer
Yep.
wins? Okay.
That's basically it. And Allison isn't here, so we might be waiting all night. We'll just be
Battles.
sitting like this.
Jason's in charge.
Battles. Okay, battles it is. Battles it is. All right, now Spartan education.
Does not feel like
Pretty
a battle,
fun.
although I guess there
No, it
would
does
be
not.
battles.
And then Thermopylae or Amphipolis.
Know anything about Amphipolis?
So Jason does not get to pick this time. So
Aw.
everyone else but Jason. Jason picked the category. Everyone. So the next person who types in. Nope, Jason. Miss. Oh,
Wait.
Saber Lord, you're late. No, we're in
you
Battles
have,
and
to, you
Wars.
have to pick one of the battles. But I do agree, almost every Spartan battle is clearly a myth, because they don't ever fight.
Thermopylae. Thermopylae. Thermopylae it is. The hot gates.
Okay, I
That's
was
what it
wondering
means.
if that was part of that.
Thermo means hot.
Oh,
Pylae
that makes sense.
means gates. So it's the hot gates. There actually is like a hot like hot springs in the area.
Huh.
Jason, I'm gonna throw you under the bus on this one. Jason went and saw it after having it built up in his world of 300 and all that stuff.
300 is literally all I know about ancient Greece.
That's all right. He gets there hoping that it's something like the cinematic view, big cliffs, things like that.
No.
No, he looked at it and he was just like, "What?"
Maybe this
I
is...
feel like I
Greece
told
has just
him that
constantly
Santa Claus
disappointed
doesn't
Jason.
exist. It really has. I'm sorry, but I feel like that's the fault of everyone else and not Greece.
Oh, wow. Okay. You're a Greece apologist.
Yeah, Jason's like, looks like my backyard. It does not look like your backyard. It has an ocean, for one.
Your yard used to flood.
Yeah, that's true. It does not anymore.
Whoa.
Well, it does if it's like really bad. Whoa, elk. moose. Elk. Moose.
I have no idea what this
There are
thing is.
deer in ancient Greece. I don't know if there's deer that much anymore. I haven't really seen any deer.
But there were deer in ancient Greece?
There were deer in ancient Greece. Red deer. Oh, come here. Hello. Oh, it's Leonidas.
He looks nothing like the movie portrayal.
Well, for one, he's wearing clothes.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
Let's do it.
Welcome, visitor, to Thermopylae.
Well, we gotta ask what he thinks.
Yeah, what do you think of this place?
Thermopylae stirs many feelings in my heart.
Makes
Rage
sense.
Yeah, you
at
died
the Persians'
there.
arrogance.
Whoa, spoiler alert.
Regret that I could not do more. But mostly, I feel proud. Proud of my city, and of my men, who fought to protect the very soul of the Spartan people.
So
For
this is,
those few fateful days, they were my brothers. I miss them all.
I don't understand how he's talking. Though.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
either.
this is awkward. But
Maybe
it
he's a ghost.
seems that the Spartans really used this as like propaganda. In
The,
their,
like, 300
we're-
event?
Yeah, that like we're the best,
Hmm.
and everyone else sucks, and they like built in like their own mythology to this
Wanna-
because they weren't the only people there.
Right. Wait.
There were
That's
10,000.
That's
Greeks
not.
there.
No, there were 300. I know it from the movie.
There were 10,000 Greeks there.
Huh.
At one point.
How many? Oh,
Only 300 were Spartans.
wow. The movie really lied to me. I
Yeah.
feel kind of betrayed.
Yeah. So there were 10,000 at one point, and then when
Once again,
the-
Spartans not carrying their weight in with attendance.
Again, yeah. Well, it's because guess what?
There was the religious
There's a
thing.
festival,
Yeah.
another festival that they had to observe that they couldn't go to.
I'm pretty sure these festivals were just made up on the spot. Like
Yeah.
it's like the
That's
no
convenient.
fighting festival.
Oh, yeah. It's all very convenient.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
on,
look,
Sparta.
suddenly got this cold and I can't go to your rally. Sorry.
They sent the only 300 people who knew how to fight.
Yeah.
Thermopylae was
Oops,
where
sorry.
a
No, no, you're
courageous
fine.
group
Didn't
of
think he was gonna talk.
Spartans stood amongst other Greek soldiers and
Oh,
held
okay.
off the forces of King Xerxes, the Persian. When you're done, find me and we'll speak more.
So not to like bash Leonidas because you know he did die, but the Delphic Oracle really had a lot to do with it as well, right? Because Spartans really follow anything that the Oracle will say. So the Oracle tells them basically like, look, you have to honor this this festival
Right.
called the Crinea. You have to honor this festival. If you don't, all of Sparta will be overruled by the Persians. The Persians will come in and take over Sparta if you don't honor this festival. If you just send 300, your king will die there. Your
Wow.
king will die there, but that will stop the Persians. So it's either send a king to get sacrificed, or
Or
all of
lose
Sparta
everything.
will lose.
Yeah.
So, and that was the kind of deal there.
Pretty bad deal for Leonidas.
Yeah, pretty bad.
But he's a Spartan. He's supposed to be happy about this stuff.
Of course, so you have to die honorably.
Right, yeah.
They're raised to that way, supposedly.
Wait.
Or it could all just be a myth.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's.
But who knows? I mean,
I don't know. We'll see if I trust what they tell me during this.
The Persian king Darius's cries of rage echoed for years after his humiliating defeat at Marathon.
I told you about the slave.
Even
right?
after
Reminds
Darius's
him.
death, his son Xerxes continued to seek vengeance against the Greeks. According to Aeschylus, Asia was emptied of all its men. Greek spies brought the news of Xerxes' imminent invasion back to their homeland. Afterwards, many discussions were had on the best place to mount a defense. In
Yeah,
the
this was
end,
a huge debate.
the Greeks decided on Thermopylae. The area featured a narrow pass that could act as a bottleneck for the Persian army, negating
really
their
wasn't that
numerical
narrow.
superiority.
But that's what it looks like in the
It
movie.
also offered naval advantages, offering the Greek fleets opportunities for flanking. 5,000 Peloponnesian Greeks set up at a fort near the entrance of the narrow passage, otherwise known as the Hot Gates. Leading them was Leonidas, a Spartan king who prided himself on supposedly being a direct descendant of Heracles.
All of his family
Leonidas was accompanied by several elite soldiers who together made up the famous 300 Spartans.
So really what it is like it's a narrow pass between not like two rocks really, but the water and a cliff. Or not really even a cliff. It's pretty like yeah.
But is there like this sort of like rock at least?
There is a little bit. It's not like this
It's
steep,
not like
but
epic
it's not
proportions?
like it's basically it's big enough that you can't march hoplites straight.
Okay.
And that's the important way that they fight, is marching straight in a line.
Yep.
So if you're like any hills, you're done. It's not going to happen well. And so it doesn't necessarily look like this.
Oh.
It is hilly, but yeah.
I feel like
say
I'm going to be
cliffs.
really sad by the end of this tour because it's
Yeah,
just going to
sorry.
destroy all my cool
I'm
illusions
sorry.
about
This is like
this
my,
epic battle.
I'm this terrible person that ruins all like things for everybody. So
That feels like a little extreme. Ruins all things
all
for everybody.
All things are ruined. No, I felt like that's what I was doing to Jason every time we went anywhere in Greece. And I was like, "Hey, here's this thing," and he's like, "Wait, that's it?" I'm like, "Damn it."
Well, I see the hot springs.
Yeah.
Oops.
No, you're fine. I have
The
nothing to
Persian army arrived in the summer of 480 BCE, preceded by a flood of rumors regarding their strength and numbers. It was claimed they consumed 6,000 tons of wheat every day, and that they dried every
Drink
river
rivers.
and brook they passed to quench their near insatiable
That's
thirst.
Herodotus.
During their
Says
march
that.
to Thermopylae, the Persians faced no opposition, and in fact increased their numbers further by recruiting more soldiers from other Greek cities and places like Thrace. According to Herodotus, the last count of the Persian fleet was numbered at 1,207 boats, mounted by approximately 240,000 men. He estimates the land army, meanwhile, was made up of more than 1 million men. The Greek forces at Thermopylae were heavily outnumbered.
He wasn't there.
Right. That was going to be one of my questions, was how reliable is this?
Not there.
Okay. When you said that the Spartans sort of used this to like build up like a little mythology about themselves, right? Okay.
Yeah, and the Greeks as well. Like when it came to like overthrowing like look how many Persians there are versus us few little Greeks.
I bet it was just Xerxes and his personal guard.
Yeah, right.
Like 300 Spartans with like 10,000 other Greeks fought like 15 Persians.
Yeah, it is all fake news. It's all fake news. But I mean, you know, to the winner. Losers don't write history. Well, fuck everyone, at least.
Sorry, just wanted to see if I could swim. Huh.
No.
Well,
Does it say anything like?
no.
It's hot.
That's what I was kind of looking for.
Yeah. No interaction there.
So really, all the facts we're going to get here are potentially just maybe made up.
A lot of it is relying on Herodotus, and
Right.
Herodotus, is somewhat unreliable at times, especially when it comes to numbers.
The 6,000 tons of wheat thing throws me off a little bit.
Yeah, well, and the rivers run dry.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like, it's hyperbole. It
Yeah.
sounds hyperbole to me. Hyperbolic to me. And to others as well. There's been lots of debates as to how accurate the numbers were.
Right.
And it's not like we have, graves or anything
Right.
to tell us, all of this. What we do know is that those 10,000 troops that were there, when the shepherd, Ephialtes, not a hunchback, not an angry Spartan guy who should have been a Spartan and was thrown off of the mountain to die as a baby. None of those things are right.
Man.
I know, I'm sorry. Ephialtes is just a guy. And Thermopylae
But he does betray
is
them,
near,
right?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
Thermopylae is near Thebes.
Okay.
And Thebes is actually allied with the Persians.
Oh.
Yeah.
So this isn't as much of a betrayal as...
Right. So they're like, oh, well, we're allied with you, so I have to basically tell you what's around here.
Okay.
And so he says, like, there's a goat path up this way that you all can follow, and you can, come around and get them from behind. And when the Greeks find out that the Persians know that, they send everyone back so that they can defend their own cities.
Oh, okay.
And tell their own cities.
Huh.
Except for the Spartans and, like, 1,000 Plataeans, or 1,000 some ones, I can't remember which ones, I think it might be Plataeans, stay and fight to the death.
Interesting. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So they, like, really weren't all that surprised by this
they could have
betrayal.
pulled back, but the Spartans are like, no, we don't die. Like, we don't, or we
They-
don't,
spoiler
like,
alert,
well,
they do.
Sorry, they do die. We don't surrender.
Ah, yeah.
Except for that one time when we surrendered later.
Yeah, wait a
in
second.
the-
We just learned about
yeah,
that.
that was the Peloponnesian War, which is like 50 years later.
Well,
100
the
years
younger
later.
generation,
Yeah.
just terrible kids.
Zoomers. Can't believe that's what they're
Xerxes
calling
believed
it.
I know, I don't
that
like
at the
it.
sight of his massive army, the Greeks at Thermopylae would flee in terror. Instead, they deliberated. The majority of the Peloponnesians wanted to engage the Persians on the Isthmus of Corinth. Leonidas,
Really
meanwhile,
far south.
believed it was wiser to stay put in Thermopylae. While the Greek forces debated, a Persian horseman was sent to spy on the enemy. He returned to Xerxes with surprising news. Not only were the Greeks not fleeing, but the Spartans guarding the fort were exercising and combing their hair. A far cry from the fearful soldiers Xerxes expected. To increase the pressure on the Greeks, Xerxes waited 4 more days, then attacked on the 5th. The Persians faced heavy resistance and suffered many losses, and Herodotus says Xerxes leaped 3 times from his chair, seized with fear for his army. The following day proved to be just as difficult for the Persian forces, and the Greeks continued to stand their ground.
You get a lot of, like, what Xerxes did.
Yeah.
And I want to know how Herodotus knows that.
Also, it's an interesting detail. 3 times,
3
did he
times.
leap from his chair.
Yeah, and it's very poetic.
Yeah.
Because that happens a lot in Homer, where 3 times someone did something.
Yeah.
So, like, Odysseus tries to hug his mother 3 times in the underworld.
Oh, what a poor guy.
I know, it's really sad. He doesn't he never heard that she had died, and he goes to the underworld and sees her.
Oh,
and
I
it's like,
did not remember that detail.
yeah. And so he tries to hug her, and 3 times her shade goes through his hands. And it's like this repetitive kind of thing. 3 times. So it's very poetic. And
Yeah.
again, probably hyperbolic.
But also, that spy was great. What a detail to report. They're exercising and combing their
And they're
hair.
combing their hair.
Like, I love that level of detail in reporting. I feel like just the exercising would have been enough.
They're not even worried. They're combing their hair.
I hope they tell us more about Xerxes, because one, that's such a cool name.
Xerxes?
Yeah. I don't like how
Actually,
they
that's
say
the
the...
one that named her kid Xerxes.
Really?
Yeah.
Good choice. Maybe. I don't know. I also, as someone with an X middle name, I like X names.
What's your ex middle name?
Xavier.
Oh, Xavier. Okay. Nice.
Sorry.
FXS.
Forgot. I can't. Yeah.
Your FX. That's an interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
FXS.
All right. Let's learn some more lies about the Spartans.
No, they're not lies. They're just
Made up details.
exaggerated truths.
I'm just saying, this tour so far feels like it's most likely to be the most made up of all of them so far.
Yeah, probably.
The
for
Persians
the
seemed poised to be held at
Well,
Thermopylae indefinitely,
Minotaur thing.
until an inhabitant from the region came
Oh, here we
forward
go.
with information. He told the Persians of another route, which could take them around Thermopylae. A Persian contingent was sent to verify the information. While there were Greek soldiers stationed to guard the route, they were forced to flee from the Persians. Thus, on the 3rd day of the battle, the Greeks were surrounded by their enemy.
Oh, you're not going to tell them that people left? People left.
Oh, look, we get a little bronze statuette of a shepherd.
Oh.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay. Maybe this is where Herodotus, or where 300 gets the whole, like, Spartan treachery thing. Is Demartos was the Spartan king who exiled himself to Persia, or where he's welcomed into Xerxes' entourage.
Huh.
So that's interesting. I actually don't know anything about this guy.
Oh, we can just close this. I just wanted to look at the little shepherd.
Yeah, it's cute.
I'm kind of interested in why the bronze shepherd is what's shown when they're talking about the king.
Yeah, that's not. But okay. It's cute. It's probably not big.
Oh, right, because didn't you say a bunch of them
They
were
look bigger than
little
yeah.
sculptures?
With the Persians both in front of and behind them, the Greek forces at Thermopylae realized they had two choices: flee to live another day, or stand and fight till their last breath. Most of the Greeks chose the former option, but some stayed, including Leonidas and his 300 Spartans. For the Spartans, dying a glorious death was one of the highest honors they could achieve. The few members of Leonidas's Spartans who did not participate in the last stand at Thermopylae felt that they had missed an opportunity for honor and either committed suicide or continued living under the mockery and disgust of their fellow citizens. The Spartans' last stand was not only for glory, though. Had they not held off the Persians, the Greeks' retreating forces would probably have been cut down by enemy horsemen.
So
some
yeah.
of them did choose to leave? Mm-hmm. Apparently the wrong choice. God, that sucks.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about, like, this whole... So, the 300 in general uses a lot of quotes from Herodotus, actually. So, like, the whole arrows blocking out the sun.
Yeah. Oh, is that from Herodotus?
That's from Herodotus, yeah. There's a
And so they
lot
didn't even
of
have to do
great
that much
quotes.
writing for the movie.
No, he just, yeah. Or comic, because it originally was a graphic novel.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that either.
I don't have it here. It's at my office.
Oh.
But it's very interesting to compare the graphic novel to the movie. It's very clear that the graphic novel, like, just wants to focus on the men and the battle, and that's it.
Right.
And the movie is like, well, we have to, like, fill it more time with this. What do we do? And so they bring in Leonidas' wife
Right.
a lot more. She maybe is only in, like, one or two, like, stills in the...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she's saying some of those lines that we have from antiquity of, like, oh, on this shield,
Right.
come back on this shield or with this shield, we women are the ones who, like, make.
Oh, yeah,
We're the only ones that can
talks back to
boss
the...
around. Yeah, the Athenian woman.
No,
no,
she talks
it's-
back to, like, the dude who's from the Persian
Yeah, the
army.
messenger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, what right do you have to talk to me?
Yeah.
She's like, because we
It's
women
like
are
Spartan
the only
women are
ones
the
that
only
give
ones, yeah.
birth to real soldiers or something.
I think she says real men.
Yeah, which is like, ouch. But, you know, whatever. So, yeah, but then they focus a lot on it in the movie.
Right, yeah, they do.
And she's a huge part of it. She's not in the graphic novel. So it's interesting to teach, like, a class on, like, cinema
Right.
and the ancient world and teach that movie. And then be like, okay, not only do I have to go all the way to archaeology, but I also have to talk about Herodotus, and then I have to talk about the comic,
Yeah.
and then I can talk about the movie, and so we have, like, all these
Many
layers
levels
of
of-
distortion.
Yeah, what was the word I wanted to use? Obfuscation?
Yeah. Ooh,
I
like
don't
that
get to
word.
say that very often.
No, you don't get to say obfuscate.
And now, we're playing a video game that's telling us about these events, but not based on the movie, at least.
Well, but except, like, some
Kind
of the
of.
scenery kind of looks like it.
That is true, yeah, the
This, like,
whatever,
crag,
cliff thing.
Yeah, that is just, yeah. There's lots of,
On the morning of the third day,
expeditions and things that
King
are like, we gotta
Xerxes was
find it.
assured
We
of
gotta
his
find the
victory.
path, the
However,
shepherd's path, but that's
that
very
victory
difficult
did
to do.
not come easy. King
Seriously
Leonidas
close.
himself fell in battle, and a furious fight broke out around his body. The Spartans fought to the last man, and when they had all been slain, Leonidas's body was brought before Xerxes. According to Herodotus, Persians usually honored the most courageous warriors, even if they were enemies. However,
Wait, oh, okay.
Xerxes was so consumed by rage at the Spartans' resistance that instead he cut off Leonidas's head and ordered it impaled on a stake. A statue of a lion was later erected on the hill of the Spartans' last stand. in honor of Leonidas's bravery.
Oh.
There's a poem written by, I think it's Simonides. That is not it. That lion, is from Amphipolis, which is in northern Greece. We don't have the lion.
Oh, I was going to ask.
Yeah,
so
we don't have that one. We just have records of it and records of the poem that was written underneath it that says something to the extent of like,
the Spartans were definitely here.
Yeah, no, tell the Spartans that here we lie. Here the 300 lie, obedient to their their orders or their commands.
Huh.
Something like that. Some like guilt trip, basically, is what it sounds like. It's like, here they lie, or here we lie, dead, because we are following your orders.
Oh, because of the whole you can't send like your whole army or whatever.
Yeah, you can't send your whole army. You knew that your king was going to die at the very least. So, nevertheless, like the Battle of Thermopylae, its impact, it slowed down the Persians for like at least a week, if not longer. And that allowed the rest of the Greek forces to kind of get more prepared. But they're going to march straight down to Athens and take over Athens.
Right.
So.
But, okay, wait. Yeah, I like the comment.
Yeah, I agree, Will. Yeah, that's really funny. We'll be like, oh, yeah.
Maybe he won't have a head when we get there.
He's like, oh, I missed them. Like, wait, how do you miss them? Are you dead? Wait, what's going on?
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Timeline.
I feel like they probably should have subbed some other character in for this tour.
Yeah, like his son. Oh, wait, that's... Well, you're a descendant in the game, right?
Oh, I was confused because I played as Cassandra.
Well, still a descendant.
Right, but when you said son, I was like, oh, does he actually have a son that we know about? Like, that's historically relevant?
He did have a son, I feel like. I feel like his wife had a son.
Because in the movie, he has a son.
Yeah, Sparta will eventually, engage in the Peloponnesian War, and then they just kind of lose power, and then the Thebans kind of gain it. And a lot of it has to do with the argument that after battles like the battle with Thermopylae, they got corrupted by the desire for wealth. Like that they
because didn't you say they hated money?
Yeah, and just in general, it's very much almost like a communist nation in a way. They're very closed off. They don't want their money to leave if they do have any. They don't engage, from what we can tell, in crafts or poetry, except in their early, except in the 8th and 7th centuries and 6th centuries. And then it dies off, and it seems like you are just a soldier at that point, around the 6th century. Allegedly. Yeah. Yeah.
Still, I'm sticking with my conspiracy theory that Spartans didn't actually train or know how to fight.
I mean...
Except for those 300.
Though they were victorious, the Battle of Thermopylae shook the morale of the Persian army. They had lost thousands of men, while Greek casualties only numbered in the hundreds, and due to the sacrifice of the Spartans, the rest of the Greek army had been able to successfully retreat and regroup. As a result, even as Xerxes set up camp at the foot of Athens' Acropolis, ready to get revenge for his father's humiliating defeat at Marathon, the Persians were more anxious than confident. They were more aware than ever that the Greeks did not fear them, and were ready to die defending their land.
I mean, so they get to Athens. The Persians get to Athens and find most of it abandoned.
Oh.
Most of it, because the Athenians knew. And the Athenians actually go to the Oracle of Delphi and ask, what do we do? What do we need to do? And one of their leaders, Themistocles, says, oh, we need to abandon the city, get on our ships, and fight a sea battle. That's the way that we'll do this. Because the Oracle says, take refuge behind the wooden walls.
So they think that's ships?
So Themistocles does. Yeah. He thinks it means ships. Other people, though, think that it means the wooden walls that surround the Acropolis at Athens. And so some go there and hide in the Acropolis in Athens. And then we're told that Xerxes basically comes in with his troops, and they slaughter everyone. Yeah.
Everyone
who was in there either dies or they jump off of the Acropolis to their death. to avoid
Getting slaughtered.
killed.
Yeah.
So yeah, sadly.
I feel like maybe that's the risk when you go to an oracle for advice.
Yeah.
If you
it's-
misinterpret, you're probably dying.
Yeah. So, but most of Athens was abandoned when the Persians walked in.
So where did the eventual, well, maybe they're going to tell us here, but where did the eventual big battle happen?
So
I would have assumed it was outside Athens.
It's actually Plataea is
Okay.
the big battle. So first is the Battle of Salamis. Well, the next battle is the Battle of Salamis, which is a sea battle.
Okay.
And that one's a huge, issue.
You never hear about any of these ones. Well, I
Yeah,
don't.
Salamis is really cool because it's another one where the Greeks pinch off, basically, the way that the Persians can go.
Right.
And Themistocles sends a slave, basically, to lie to Xerxes' forces, saying, like, oh, the Greeks are disorganized. They don't know what they're doing. You should go attack. Themistocles says this because he wants to defect to you. And Xerxes buys it, basically, and says, like, all right, let's go. Let's fight now. And that causes all the ships to bottleneck.
Right.
And that's when the Greeks strike them.
I feel like maybe Xerxes didn't plan this out very well. Because, like, you literally just had this battle where
Yeah.
you're like, oh, they're not as scared of us as we thought.
What's even greater is that he has actually a woman who is leading some of the ships named Queen Artemisia.
Okay.
It's not his queen, but she's
Sure.
a queen of another place, but is allied with Persia. And she tells Xerxes, like, no, don't do this. This is a bad idea. And he's like, no, we're going to do it. It's fine. You know, everything's fine. Go. And sure enough, like, the battle goes very badly. The only group that's fighting well is hers.
Aw.
And we're told by Herodotus,
Sure.
of course, that as he's watching all of this happen
Did
from
he
a
leap
cliff,
from his chair?
I don't know. He probably leaped from his chair 3 times. But he looks down and he says, ugh, my men have become women and my women have become men.
Because she's the only one
Because
doing
she's
well.
the only one doing well. Everyone else is dying terribly.
Xerxes.
We're told that, the ships that were sinking, the Persian ships that were sinking, there were so many soldiers in the water that the Greeks could spear them like fish.
Oh, because they're, like, so many people that they're, like, piling up?
Yeah,
Oh.
and so they can spear them like fish from their ships. And the waters run red, and it's just like a whole big mess. So, yeah.
Well, don't invade Greece.
No,
I guess.
don't invade Greece.
In the end, the Battle of Thermopylae was still a loss for the Greeks.
No.
However, the battle gave the Greeks a boost in
Sorry.
morale that carried them all the way to their decisive victory over the Persians in the Battle of Plataea in 479 BCE. With the war against the Persians finally won, the Greeks were able to honor the sacrifice of Leonidas and his Spartans with memorials and poems, forever solidifying the glory of Sparta's military prowess.
Say the poem.
The newfound respect for Sparta was noteworthy, because before the war, the city was seen as no more than a bully who forced itself into the affairs of others. Thermopylae changed opinions of Sparta for the better, and gave them a legitimate claim to be one of Greece's most powerful and influential cities.
Huh.
No poem?
So, question.
Yeah.
So they were previously seen as a bully, and then it says, like, now they're this powerful, influential city. But didn't they not really want anything to do with most of the rest of Greece?
They don't want to do much of, like... Yeah, that's the weird thing. I wouldn't know if bully... They didn't really... Well, okay. So Argos, which is near them, Argos and Sparta always have, like, a tiff with each other over what territory is owned by which. And so that might be where it comes from. They don't really become, like, a pain in the butt, though, because Corinth keeps trying to make, like, the Spartans do stuff when the Athenians start becoming the bully.
Okay,
really.
yep.
Because what's going to happen after this is the Athenians are going to form the Delian League.
Yep.
And this is going to... They're going to charge, basically, their allies a fee to be protected, almost. And that's going to cause everyone to get really, like, up in arms about, like, oh, God, we're, like, being penalized for... if we want to get out of this, they attack us, and
Right.
this isn't fair. So they go to Sparta and ask Sparta to help. And Sparta keeps like backing off and is like, "Hey, we don't really want to get involved in this. This is a big deal." And then Corinth finally says, "Look, we're gonna like leave you as an ally if you don't do something soon."
Huh.
And so finally, the Spartans do something.
You'd think, as these like legendary
Bullies?
fighters, you would
Yeah.
want to get involved and
Yeah,
fight.
no, they really don't.
It's just a
very
really long
interesting.
religious festival.
Yeah, everything is a long religious festival.
Oh, hey,
So-
Leonidas.
You finished.
You still have your
I
head.
hope you
look.
understand the magnitude of the sacrifices made at Thermopylae. Without them, the Greek people would have surely ended as a footnote in Persian history.
Yeah, that would be
Is
interesting.
there
to
something
see
else you'd like to do?
Alternate history.
Yeah.
Alternate history. Persians beat the Athenians and rest of Greeks.
I don't know enough about the Persians to make predictions.
That would be really interesting. That would be a lot of change. I mean, I feel like we would lose a lot of. Well, it's tricky.
I think I also am unclear on like which really important Greek things have happened by this point and which haven't.
Oh, sure. So we actually are not. We're starting the classical period. So the Acropolis has not yet been built.
Okay.
We're not really high into like the art's getting better, but it's not like our ideal that we think about. We don't have philosophy as well as we
Wait, do or don't?
Like we don't have it as much because like Plato, Socrates, those guys don't come around until 350s.
Those are actually specifically the ones I was thinking of.
Sorry, 450s to 400s.
Okay. So we wouldn't have the cave.
Yeah. We
I
wouldn't
can't
have-
think of any other famous
Yeah,
things
no,
they wrote.
We wouldn't. Well, it's debatable then because like, while the Persians do allow cities to basically kind of rule themselves, they still are taxed
Right.
and everything. And then how far would Persia have gone? Would they have gone all the way to Italy? Would they have taken over the puny? Were they puny at this time? Yeah, puny, not doing so well Romans at this point.
Huh. Well, because this was all just a grudge with Greece, right?
This part was, but
Okay.
what's stopping them from
Yeah, that's true.
continuing then at that point, as opposed to going further east, they would go west instead.
I don't know.
I mean, there is
Also, how much philosophy do you have if you're a heavily taxed vassal of Persia?
yeah, exactly. So how can you? And a lot of this has to do with like the democracy of Greece, and democracy isn't
Yeah, I guess
solid
you
at
don't
this
probably have
point.
that if you're taken
Yeah.
over by another civilization.
Yeah, exactly. So we could, it could be a very vastly different world that we live in.
We could all be Persian.
We could, well,
Probably not in America.
I
but
wonder if our language, how much our language would change though, because we do, a lot of our language does have Greek,
yeah.
and then, yeah, if they took over like Italy too, there goes the Romans.
Oh. Right, I'm gonna do the quiz before I
All
forget
right,
everything we
let's do it.
learned.
If you think you're ready.
I do like the suggestion that they
Let's
should have had
begin.
Herodotus show up instead of
First question.
Leonidas
Yeah.
for the quiz.
Who was Xerxes' father?
Ooh, Darius.
Good job.
Well, they even put me on the right answer.
Yes. One of the main reasons Xerxes invaded
creepy.
Greece was to get
Really
revenge
creepy.
for Darius'
Oh, we're talking to a
defeat
dead guy.
at the Battle of Marathon. Another question for you. Which battle is seen as the final victory against Xerxes' Persian forces?
Everyone begins with a P.
Yep.
Correct.
Got
The
it.
Battle of Plataea helped put an end to Xerxes' invasion. One last question. How many Spartans fought at the Battle of Thermopylae?
That feels like a lame last question.
Yeah.
Hold on, I just want to see what he says.
3?
3
No,
Spartans.
that would not have been enough. Keep trying. Yes, 300 of us stood
So
against Xerxes' forces.
Yeah, he's a little weird.
You've done well, visitor. I have no more questions for you.
Okay, bye.
Okay, do we pick or do we do random?
Oh, I wouldn't do random. Is that okay, guys, if we do random?
Well, I'm gonna vote yes.
I admire your recklessness. Follow me.
I bet he takes us a Spartan education.
That'd be really funny.
Yeah. Like, hey, you want to learn more about me?
Okay, hold on.
Greek
What are the tortoises? Do you know?
The tortoises are. It's not like the shields. That's Romans. Tortuga is that. I think they are. I don't know what the tortoise
Like an inverted boat on
It's
top of
gotta
you?
be some sort of like
Shell-looking
siege
thing.
or something. Yeah, it must be. I'm not very good with warfare, sadly. Cryptea. Those are the spies.
The what?
The kids that get to kill the slaves in Sparta.
Oh,
Cryptea.
yeah. Yep.
Where did he take us? Oh, it looks like wine. Oh, wheat and agriculture. Wheat
You seem
and
very excited
agriculture.
about wheat and agriculture.
I mean, I taught a class on food and antiquity.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
it was fun.
did that go well? Was that last semester?
That was.
The semesters have all blended together for me at this
It
point.
was a year ago, I think, because. Yeah, I think it was a year ago, maybe 2. Yeah, it has blended together for me too.
Yeah.
I know it was during the fall semester,
Okay.
but it was not last fall, so it must have been 2 years ago almost. It was fun. We cooked food.
Like
We
in
had a
class?
yeah.
Huh.
Well, not like in class, but
Well,
we brought it
Sure.
to class, and then I let a bunch of departments come and eat. So we kind of hosted our own little, and then everyone voted on.
Oh,
what
that's
food
really
they
cool.
think was best and what recipes were their favorites and everything. It was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I wish there were more fun classes like that to teach in psychology. Like, I'm sure there are, but
Yeah,
I don't get a chance to do any of that stuff.
you never know.
Well, that's true. Currently, I don't get to do any of that stuff.
Yeah,
Oops.
I feel like
I keep
people
forgetting
really
they talk
like
right away.
Greetings, my friend. Welcome to Arcadia, home of shepherds, sheep,
don't like
and
this character.
manure.
I don't either.
Arcadia has nothing. Arcadia is like there's nothing there. There's a bunch of hills, mountains.
Did you take Jason to see it, and he was
No,
disappointed?
I don't know if Jason saw Arcadia. It's just mostly hills and some plains that you can, but it's like Kentucky.
Wow. Although
There's
accurate.
nothing there.
All right, what do you think about
I
this place, Marcus?
recently made an offer to buy some nearby farmland. Unfortunately, the owner refused, based on completely unsubstantiated rumors that I once burned down 3 farms in Kos. Can you believe it? I've never burned down a farm in my life.
That was
I
not
may
an
have
answer to
once
my
paid
question.
someone else to do so, but I assure you, my reasons were entirely acceptable and in the best interest of everyone involved.
Okay, let's just begin the tour
Arcadia
then.
was well known for its sublime natural vistas. Farmers and shepherds
AKA
were
Kentucky.
seduced by its beauty, and it's easy to see why. I have to leave for now, but I'll meet you again when you finish your visit. Until then, my friend.
Okay. Well, let's learn about some agriculture, I guess.
Grain was a staple of the Greek diet, to the point where Homer referred to his compatriots as mortal eaters of bread. Grain farming was a meticulous process. Due to dry summers, artificial irrigation was impossible, so farmers had to rely on rainfall to water their crops. This gave them
So
very
winter
narrow
is
windows for
actually
sowing
their,
and
growing
harvesting.
season.
On a farm of this size, only half of the field would be planted every year, while the other half would lie fallow to avoid exhausting the soil. According to the poet Hesiod, the best time to sow grain was in autumn, and the best time to harvest it was in May. Fortunately, if farmers missed their opportunity, they also had a chance to plant millet in the spring.
So yeah, the whole myth of Demeter and how her daughter is taken, and that's the origin of winter.
Okay.
It's not the origin of winter. It's actually the origin of the hottest season, the hottest, driest season. Which because sorry, modern Greeks being spoken. What's up?
Oh, is that what that means?
Yeah. What you doing? Sorry, I can't not hear it. I really miss Greece right now.
It's weird. I've never heard so many people talking as we wandered through these areas.
Yeah, it's really loud right
Yeah.
now. Maybe because you're next to the road or something. But yeah, so Demeter's wife Demeter's daughter gets taken
Okay.
by Hades into the underworld as his bride.
Okay.
And she is so upset about this that she stops the land from producing grain. And humans start to die.
Seems rude.
Yeah.
Humans did not do this to you.
No, they did not. But the reason that, they want this gone, and she wants her daughter back, and so she knows the best way to do that is to make humans suffer, because humans offer the gods sacrifices.
Right.
And so that's the only thing within her control, basically, is grain and the growing of grain.
Okay.
So she decides, I'm going to make a famine. And so people start dying, and finally the gods are like, look, what the hell do you want? She's like, I told you many times I want my daughter back. And so they finally say, okay, we'll give you your daughter back. Zeus goes to, Zeus sends Hermes to go to the underworld to go get Persephone. But Persephone has eaten pomegranate seeds in the underworld. This means that she's eaten, like, underworld food.
Okay.
And so as a result of that...
That sounds bad, I guess?
Yeah, it's bad. She has to spend a certain amount of time in the underworld.
Underworld has weird rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, marriages in ancient Greece, one of the things that you would do is your husband would feed you some fruit.
Oh, it's like the cake bit.
Yeah, it's kind of... So your husband would feed you some fruit in order to say to you, like, look, I am now the one that provides for you. Not your father.
Right.
Me. And so because of this, Persephone is stuck in the underworld for a part of the year. And so every year, when her daughter goes down to the underworld to serve her, like, wifely duties or whatever, nothing grows. And so as Americans, we're like, oh, well, that's winter then.
I get it.
Because that's not our growing
But that's
season.
not how it works in
That's
Greece.
not how it works in a Mediterranean climate, where the summers are so bloody hot and dry. There's, like, no rain. This is why there's often forest fires in Greece in August.
Right. That makes sense.
Everything is ridiculously dry.
Yeah, so, like, what is the Greek summer like? Like, temperature-wise?
So it gets winds from Africa.
Oh, wow.
That can make it up to, like, on the worst I've ever been in, I think it's 115.
Oh my god.
It was hot. It was ridiculous.
Pass.
It was something like 45 Celsius.
I think it's too warm here when it's, like, above 80 degrees.
Yeah. I want to say it was 45 Celsius.
Wow.
Which I cannot remember for the life of me. I feel like that's pretty high.
Are you converting?
Yes. It is 113. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 45 was around the highest. It sucked.
Yeah.
And plus, on
now
top
I don't
of that,
want to go
you
to
get the
Greece in the
winds
summer.
from, like, the Sahara that bring in dust from the sand from the Sahara.
Yeah.
Which is happening, apparently, currently for Florida. Apparently there's some weird winds that are blowing that are causing...
Africa?
Yeah, that are causing...
Florida's so weird.
I know, right? And I've never heard of this happening, so I'm like, oh, it's like Greece is happening, but not at the same time for me.
But in Florida.
But in Florida.
Where there's more bath salts.
All right.
Before planting in a field, the land needed to be plowed a total of 3 times. Once in the spring to remove weeds, again in the summer to aerate the soil, and a final time in the winter to plant the seeds in the moist earth. The plough was pulled by 2 oxen, while the sowing of seeds was done by hand. After the seeds were planted, a boy turned the soil with a hoe to protect them from hungry birds. Once the sowing was finished, the farmers waited for winter rains to irrigate the field. They also prayed to the goddess of agriculture, Demeter, and her daughter Persephone, in the hopes of being favored with a bountiful harvest come springtime.
Nothing good happens in Florida. Sorry. Truth. Sorry. Sorry, Florida.
Aww.
Hey, I lived there for 12 years. I can say that.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on board. I mean, I've only ever vacationed there. Oh, chat doesn't love our narrator.
The British narrator.
Grain was harvested in the spring using a curved knife called a sickle. With their backs to the wind, the reapers cut the plant stalks and left the sheaves behind before moving through the rest of the crop. Once the harvest was mowed, the sheaves were brought to the threshing floor.
Threshing floors. Threshing floors are so much fun.
I don't...
So,
Why?
okay, so you have wheat, right? And it's on stalks.
Yep.
But you have to knock that stuff off of it, right? You have to get the wheat off.
I have no idea. Oh, okay. I genuinely have no idea how wheat is harvested.
So you want... So wheat over time become, like, we as humans force it to evolve in a certain way by selection. So we always wanted the type of wheat that has a very strong shaft that holds the seed in place, so that while you're carrying it, the seed stays, it doesn't fall off.
Okay.
Right? Because if it falls off while you're harvesting, then it's on the ground. It's not going to be brought to
I see.
somewhere.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that it's got a very hard kind of hold.
Sure.
So that's the type that eventually, like, continues to be grown over and over and over and over and over again until you get these, like, very hard casings over the seed. This means that you have to find some way to knock the seed loose from the shaft, the grain shaft. And that's what a threshing floor is good for.
Okay.
So
Like, what do you
drag
do?
it all over to the threshing floor, and there are several different ways that you can thresh. The first is that you can have a threshing sled, basically. A threshing sled it looks like a sled,
Yeah.
but underneath has stones,
Okay.
like flint stones that
Sure.
are very sharp,
Okay.
that will go across and kind of, like, not grind the grain, but just cut the grain loose from the shaft and the chaff as well. And then you have women that throw all of that stuff that's been, like, mushed up and ground up, like these guys are doing. They're going to throw it up into the air. The seed is heavy. It's more dense. The grain itself is more dense.
Yep.
The chaff that's around it, that was holding it to the stalk, is very light.
Okay.
So it's going to fly away in the breeze.
Okay. So you're relying on the wind.
So you kind of, like, toss it up like this.
Okay,
with
I can see how
threshing
this is kind of fun.
baskets. Yeah, so you're just, like, throwing and everything. The thing that I like is that it's very difficult. Like, finding a threshing floor is kind of it's weird in archaeology.
Why?
So it's kind of one of these, like, oh, if it's flat and round, it's probably a threshing floor. And it's like, well, okay, because you're walking the, animal around in circles, dragging that sled.
Right.
But yeah, it's a little, man, that box has really big horns. I wonder if it's from Thessaly. Did I tell you where these are? Wait, what? Oh, that was a leaf. Okay.
They
never
have
mind.
not told us.
I really want to learn more about these. I feel like
He's hovering.
they're so big. Okay, anyways, I got distracted by these very large horns.
Animal husbandry was an important part of Greek
I know
agriculture.
more about threshing.
Farmers usually kept cattle, donkeys, sheep, goats, pigs, dogs, geese,
That
and
is
chickens.
a long list.
The animals mostly fed in
Eat
pastures,
dogs.
but could also eat some of the farm's harvested grain, as well as damaged fruit and residue from olive oil and wine production. Livestock had several purposes. Their manure was used to fertilize the fields, and their grazing helped remove weeds. Arcadia was a mountainous region believed to be the home of the god Pan, so farmers were more likely to keep sheep and goats than cattle.
Okay.
Cattle need lots of grazing land,
Right.
whereas sheep and goats can go, like, anywhere.
I knew that about goats. I didn't know that about sheep.
They're not as great at it,
Okay.
but yeah. But cows, man, they need flat land, and flat land is hard to find, especially in Arcadia. Same with horses. This is how, like, horses and cows become symbols of wealth.
Because you have to have the right.
Right. You have to have the right land to raise them. And so horses especially, because it's like, oh god, you want a horse? So that's why people, like, will name their kids after, like, they'll put horse names in their kids' names. So Pisistratus, the tyrant of Athens, the first tyrant of Athens, named his kids Hippias, which
Okay.
means horsey guy, basically, and Hipparchos.
I don't
which
know how I'd
means
feel if my
horse leader.
family, like, horse leader is at least a little okay,
Yeah.
but, like, being named
Hippias.
horsey guy.
Horsey guy, Hippias, horse-like guy.
Oh, should we check out this purple thing?
Sure.
I forget what these are. Oh,
Pan. Oh, okay.
that's not as interesting as I thought.
No, I thought we were gonna talk about these cows. Really want to know more about these straight-horned cows.
Oh, maybe this one will tell us.
Most farming tools were simple handmade implements made of wood and occasionally tipped with iron.
Rarely
The
tipped
most
with iron.
complicated tool was the plough, which was made up of several parts, including a beam, a drawbar, and a yoke. A two-pronged hoe, meanwhile, was used for tilling soil,
This is very
and
detailed.
farmers
Yeah.
also had tools for digging and weeding.
Yeah, the thing that so Hesiod is our author that tells us a lot of stuff about farming. Hesiod's writing around the same time as Homer.
Okay.
So we're talking like 700 BCE. And Hesiod has Works and Days as one of his poems.
Okay.
And the majority of it is like him telling basically his brother how to run a farm successfully. It's a whole poem about how to run a farm.
Okay.
And so he's like, this is when you build a wagon, and this is when you geld your donkeys, and this is
But in
when
poem
you do
form.
this. Yeah, but in poetic form.
Weird. But I
The
guess
same
cool.
poetic formula as Homer's Iliad and Odyssey.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah. Some of my favorite lines in that one are things like, oh, don't pee in a don't urinate. Sorry, don't urinate in a stream that flows into a fountain.
It's good advice.
Yeah, why'd you have to put it in a poem? Like,
Oh, here it is.
did you have to put it in a poem? Rushing floor. Yeah, so you lay out all of that, the wheat like that, and then you have the animal walk and pull the sled, which I don't see a sled anywhere. Do you?
Sorry, spinning the camera. No.
I don't see one. That'd be nice if we had a threshing sled, or sledge, I suppose, is the other. Is Works and Days the one where he also shits on yeah, he's not friendly to women. Hesiod just isn't friendly to women in any of his poems, both the Theogony and Works and Days. But that one's the one, Works and Days is the one where he's like, don't get yourself, or beware of large-butted women, because they will just sit at home and eat your food all day.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. What does he call them? It's something assed women. Large ass? No, but yeah. There's a great meme going around where it's like, someone says like, oh, I love Hesiod. He says this and this and this. Like, be careful about the large-assed women. She'll eat she'll eat you out of house and home,
Yeah.
basically. And then someone below that is like, damn, Hesiod, what woman, like, just, yeah, tore you up.
Hesiod
So,
was a ancient incel.
Yeah, basically. He really does not like women.
It's odd that would make it into his farming advice
Yeah.
poem.
There's a lot of, well, it's like when to marry a woman.
Ah.
So when to get a wife, he says,
Oops.
like,
After the
you need...
sheaves were
Just trying to
Oh, no,
chase
you're
it.
fine. You're trying to chase
workers
the pig,
brought
and
me to
you...
the threshing floor to extract the
floor.
grain. Oxen or donkeys were hitched to a post in the center of the floor and guided around it, while workers threw sheaves under their hooves. The animals stomping forced the grain kernels out of their
Oh, that's why there's
casings.
no sled.
Afterwards,
you
the
should have a
kernels were
sled.
collected for the winnowing process. Winnowing helped separate the heavier grain seeds from the chaff. It
Chaff is
began
the
with using a
stuff
wooden
protecting it.
shovel
Yeah.
to toss the grain. While in the
Just throw it
air,
up in the air.
the wind blew away the lighter chaff, leaving only the heavier grain. To remove the remaining chaff, the grain was tossed in a wooden basket called a lignon, which filtered the grain
Lignon.
until only clean kernels remained.
So you just would go like this. You can actually look on YouTube and find, like, threshing process, ancient, like, I can't remember, but I found some really cool videos of people recreating basically this. Dang, boar! That is a big boar.
I wonder who the first person was that was like, what if we just throw it in the air?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, they probably were like, oh, it's windy
I
today. They were, like,
guess.
shoveling it, and they were like, oh, look, it's windy, and that makes it go.
Do you think
and,
at some point, though, before that, they were trying to do this manually and, like, someone just tossed a bunch of this stuff in the air?
You're like, F it.
Yeah, maybe they were just frustrated.
So frustrated. Ooh, look, that made it much easier.
I
love
feel
these
like I interrupted
quotes.
you saying something when I
Oh, I
started
don't
that last
remember.
one. Me neither.
Is that Kelly? Yeah.
It wasn't about threshing. I don't know. Don't remember.
I'm bummed they don't have the threshing sled. Or sledge. It's pretty cool.
It's pigs in the way of our next.
I'm trying to figure out what they're going to talk about next, though. So maybe grinding it. They're probably gonna
Storage.
Oh, maybe storage. Yeah, that's true.
That's my bet.
But that's not. Yeah. Maybe storage. Maybe grinding though.
All right, let's find out.
Yeah.
Barley, which was used to make
Oh,
flour,
okay.
was different from other types of grain. Threshing was not enough to separate the barley from its husk, so instead, it was roasted in a specialized tool called a frigatron. After the barley was roasted, it was pounded
Not a
with a mortar
transformer.
and pestle. The pounded grain was then ground
Oh, see,
into
we
a
were both
meal,
right.
using either a hand mill or a hopper mill. Grinding was boring work, so workers often lightened the mood with a mill song. Once the barley was
Mostly
completely
female
ground,
workers,
it
FYI.
was sieved using a wicker basket called a koskinon, making it
Koskino.
ready for
It means
use.
a shaker.
Huh.
Koskino is like something shaken up or mixed up.
Okay.
But yeah, didn't the ancient Greeks drink more beer than water? Not beer, wine. Wine is their choice. They water it down as well. Beer is actually seen as a barbaric drink.
Oh, I'm
And
insulted.
So yeah, barley is not really made into beer. Beer is very much seen as a Near Eastern drink and Persian drink, and we don't drink that here in Greece. Instead, they drink a lot of wine, and they
Right.
water it down in order to not get too intoxicated.
Right, so they can party longer.
Right. Milk is also seen as a barbaric drink.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So beer and milk, very barbaric.
Interesting. I would not do well. I don't drink milk, but
Yeah.
beer.
Yeah. And then let's see what else. Oh, so barley. There are different like categories of grains.
Okay.
So barley is easier to grow.
Is this
actually.
barley?
I'm not sure. Sure.
Okay.
Barley is easier to grow. It'll grow in poorer soil than wheat. Wheat needs very specific soil,
Huh.
and it's very high maintenance compared to barley. So, and then there's all these other types of grains that we like barely talk about anymore, and they're like hipster grains and stuff, you know, like millet. right?
Ah, yeah, they did mention millet.
Yeah, if you're like
I don't know
quinoa
what millet is.
or but spelt is another type.
I've heard of spelt.
Yeah. So all of those, like, there's different categories, and wheat is seen as the best type, but it's usually reserved for those people that can afford the better land and the better, you know, things.
Right.
So barley cakes were something that were often given to poorer people,
Oh, okay.
and were made by poorer people. So it's kind of like, oh, what are you eating? Is that bread or is that barley cake? Because if it's barley cake, you're poor.
Poor.
So much so that they would like the Romans would punish their soldiers by
giving them barley?
giving them barley cakes
Aw.
to eat instead of, you know, wheat bread or anything like that.
All right, now storage. Maybe.
Yes, probably.
Grain storage
Yay.
areas
Good
needed to
job.
be dark, dry, cool, contained, and well ventilated to
A lot
prevent
of
the grain
adjectives.
from
Yeah.
spoiling. According to Hesiod, the preferred method of storing grain was in a pithos, the same container as Pandora's mythological box. Archaeological evidence suggests that Greeks may have also stored grain in small, walled structures woven from branches. Farms generally needed to store enough grain to sustain themselves for the year and seed corn for the next. Any
fancy corn.
surplus was either stored for a lean year or sold to markets for profit.
So wait, why not seed corn?
Okay, so the word corn, this is British slang coming. This
Wait,
is
really?
British language coming to bite us in the butt.
Okay.
Because corn today, that's North American. That's North American origin. That's American origin.
I didn't know
They
that.
didn't have corn in ancient Greece. They only had grains, like, you know.
So they're not seeding
wheat
corn.
and all that stuff. So yeah. So but the Brits used to call just all grain in general corn. Any grain in general was
Oh.
corn. This is way back in like 1600s, 1700s.
Huh.
It's like, okay, it's just corn. Is
Okay.
their general word for grain.
Sure.
And then they get to the Americas and they're like, hey, look, corn. And that name stuck
Weird.
with that type.
Yeah.
So that's why we call it corn, the corn that we have on cobs and things like that.
Right.
But they didn't have that in Europe.
Okay.
That's not, it just didn't exist. So we still get translators that'll translate the word
I
wheat
see
or
how
grain
it-
as corn. Cetos is the word in Greek.
Yep.
And they'll translate it as corn. And it's just like, don't do that because we now have corn. I point out my backyard because I'm actually
'Cause we're in-
growing corn in
Oh,
my
I just
backyard.
thought it was because we were
No,
in
I
Iowa.
actually got corn. Well, that too. But I've actually grown corn in my garden. Yeah, I get to learn how to self-pollinate corn. It's gonna be very fun.
I don't know what that means.
Corn sex, man.
I mean, sure.
Yeah. But so that's one thing is the whole like don't call it corn.
Sure.
Thing. Second thing, so that becomes like frustrating for me when I'm teaching a class, right?
Right.
Because it's like, oh, look, we're reading this translation where he sees talking about corn, and they're like, wait, isn't corn? They had corn? I'm like, no, they didn't have corn. They had
Grain.
grain, and that's just a generic term for grain. So that's one thing. Next thing, Pandora.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was talking about this pithos, right? Just a big jar.
Right.
Yeah, it originally seems to have been that it was a pithos, that it was a jar that Pandora had when she was given in marriage to Epimetheus, one of the gods.
Look, she comes with a jar.
Zeus gave it, and it's a big jar that like she could fit into.
Okay.
Like, it's a huge jar, and it's filled with. We have different versions. It seems to be different evils.
Right.
Seems to be the thing.
Yep.
However, other versions tell us, no, it wasn't evils. Evil was in there, but it's like everything in general. Like,
Just a jar with everything?
it's just a jar of everything. So
Okay.
it's not just evils, but it's also like luck and health and things like that. And so when and that's their way of explaining, because when Pandora opens it,
Right.
she's told not to. She
Sure.
opens it. Thank you, woman. She opens it. All these things fly out.
Right.
And she puts the lid back on, and she puts it on and stops hope from getting out.
Oh,
And the word is elpis in ancient Greek.
okay.
It seems like that word could mean like hope, like good hope,
Yeah.
or it could mean like anticipation
Okay.
and like false hope
Oh.
almost. But then if it's a bad thing, so if it's a bad thing, great, but then how is it out in the world? Like, how do we have it if it's in that jar? That's the one confusing part, right?
Yeah.
Or if it's a good thing, if it's like hope for like, oh, a better day,
Oh.
then what's it doing in a jar of evils? Right?
Yeah.
So it's very confusing.
Yeah,
but
that's a weird
nevertheless,
version.
It was a jar. Very big jar. At one point, I think, I forget which scholar did it, but a scholar messed up. I think it was 15th century, but that sounds way too late for me. But a scholar messes up, and instead of writing pithos, writes pixis.
Does that mean box?
Means box. And it's a little jewelry box.
Yeah, because I was going to say that was the
It's like a
version I
makeup box.
learned.
Yeah,
was
it's like a little jewelry or makeup box.
Right.
That she opens.
Which obviously can't fit all the evils.
No.
You need a big
of course
jar.
not. You need a big jar. So yeah, that's one thing. Additionally, if you want to go Freudian with this whole thing, then my students love it when I do this. If you want to go Freudian with the whole thing, pointy things represent.
Yep.
What do hollow things represent?
Ah.
Jars.
Yep.
Represents the womb, right?
Sure.
And so all evils
Yeah.
are in a womb.
Did Hesiod write this?
Yes. Actually, he did.
Oh. Wow, I didn't really expect that to work out.
No, it works out very well. Good job. So, yeah, that's the fun thing about
Hesiod would do well on the worst parts of the internet.
he.
Yeah,
actually, I could see that working out really well. He's a really bitter man.
Yeah.
Someone hurt him hard. And actually, we do know part of it was his brother.
Oh.
His brother stole
Wait.
his inheritance.
His brother made him hate women?
His brother made him, like, mad, that's for sure.
Sure.
He stole his inheritance. But then maybe he had a wife that he didn't want to, like... Yeah.
Sorry, I gotta
yeah.
share a story looking at this sort of silo. A friend of mine, I won't name names because I don't want to embarrass anyone, when she first moved to Iowa, she was from California, told me that she was amazed because she was driving around around Iowa for some reason.
Sorry, you said amazed, and I was
Amazed?
like,
Oh,
amazed,
yeah.
born.
No, I was not trying for that one. But
Okay, go ahead.
she was like, it's so cool that Iowa has so many like observatories because she thought every grain silo was like a telescope.
Poor. Wow. Oh,
And
that's
honestly, I don't think she had ever
sad.
corrected it until she said that to someone else while they were driving. And it had been like years of her living here thinking that. There were just a lot of like really passionate
But they're like
astronomers.
all worn down and
I
everything.
know.
What
It
is
doesn't make any sense.
interesting?
She was pretty embarrassed when she told me that story, but I thought it was really funny. All right, let's take a quiz.
Oh yes, let's.
We get to listen to Marcos talk.
My friend! Good to see you again! You must feel hungry. I know I would, spending all that
Yeah, I'm
time
kinda hungry
watching
too.
farmers working themselves to the bone. Now, what else can I do for you?
Isn't it fun watching people work and labor for your food?
If you say so, let's get started. According to Isiodos, what was the best month to start harvesting grain?
Harvesting.
May.
Yes, spring was the ideal time for harvesting. Guess I'm not the only smart one around here. Time for another question. Which tool did reapers use to cut stalks?
A sickle.
Yes,
I like the idea of a sword.
sickle was a curved knife, making it ideal for harvesting sheaves of grain. Only one question left. Arcadia was believed to be the home of which god?
Pam.
Yeah. Good
Correct.
job. You didn't need me
Pan
at all.
supposedly
Yeah, I've
called
done-
the
I'm doing
mountain
pretty well
of
on these quizzes
Infinity
today.
Yeah.
Incredible work, my friend. It's safe to say your mind
Little
is
close.
definitely more wheat than chaff.
Oh.
Oh, thanks. So are we doing another tour?
Let's see. We've been going for how long? Hour and a half? Yeah, we could do another tour. You up
Okay.
for it?
Yeah.
Random? Audience? Chat? Yes, I agree. No one likes Marcos. Hopefully they won't take us to another Marcos one. But no
He
way
needs to
our luck.
blink more than he does.
Yeah. That's good.
Alright.
Alright.
Random.
Random it is.
If you say so, my friend, follow me.
No. No more you. So I'm thinking, we did daily life, we did, what are they going to send us to? Maybe a city? We haven't done many cities.
Have I been here for any of the cities? I'm not sure.
Knossos, wasn't that one of them?
Yeah, you're right.
Birds, man. Birds tell you a lot of things.
Birds are weird.
Oh man, I miss Athens. I should be traveling back from Athens right now, FYI, after being there for 3 weeks.
Hey, really? In
Yeah.
June?
Yep.
I
was
always
gonna
felt
go
like
from
you were there
June
in
1st to
July.
the 22nd. I used to be when I was digging,
Ah.
but I don't dig anymore.
Oh, but that was what you were planning to do
Yeah.
before.
So this was gonna
COVID
be 3
ruined
weeks
the
with
world.
students.
Oh, right, because you were.
We were
I
gonna
forgot
go
about that.
to like Olympia. We were gonna go.
Yeah, because
to
you
the
offered that we could like
islands.
buy plane tickets and like.
Yep, I was like, you guys
hang
want to
out.
tag along? Come along with us? Would have been fun.
All right. So what is this? Do you think?
It looks like a temple area. It looks like Delphi. We're in Delphi. This is Delphi. This has to be Delphi. Let's give it a shot. It's Herodotus.
Yep.
Yep, Delphi it is.
All right.
Delphi is fascinating. I absolutely love Delphi.
Like
It's
the.
so beautiful.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask, is it like the stories or like the place?
Yeah, the place.
Okay.
The stories as well. I mean, like how it becomes
Oops, I keep forgetting that they talk
the
right away.
oracle of.
Here, visitor, and welcome to this sacred site.
Why is he whispering at us?
Delphi is an amazing place to visit if you're
He's actually
looking
talking
for
about the place.
information. I've
They
come
never
here
do.
on several occasions in search of answers to some particularly puzzling questions, and sometimes I even found them.
Other times, the oracle absolutely screwed me over.
I was gonna say she seems to be like very hit or miss.
The oracle is super, yeah. Everything about her is just.
This
not
is
great.
Delphi, home of the renowned oracle.
So beautiful.
Greeks considered it the navel of the world.
that
Pilgrims
a
and
compliment?
kings journeyed
The
here
center
from
of the
all
world.
over Greece and
Yeah.
It
beyond,
has a belly button.
seeking advice from Apollo through the voice of his
Earth
interpreter,
is an Audi.
Pythia. During
What?
your
Oh.
visit, you
It's
will
like a belly button.
experience the sanctuary through a pilgrim's eye and discover how important oracles and prophecies were to the people of Greece. Now, go off and begin your pilgrimage.
Yay.
I will be waiting for you at the end of your visit.
So wait, you guys, you don't like Herodotus, you don't like Marcos,
I like Herodotus.
but chat.
Yeah.
Were we okay with Leonidas? Because he was a little creepy.
No, he was creepy.
Yeah.
I really hate Marcos. Leonidas is second.
I mean, yeah. Wait, what are these little eyes?
Little eyes.
Like up on the compass at the top.
Oh, I think there's sights to see. Maybe there's some of the purple. I don't know. Maybe I choose it. Or it could be part of the gameplay that I haven't done yet.
Oh, it's this.
Oh no, it's that stuff.
It's a bowl.
Yes, it is a bowl.
Okay.
It probably
Thought it was going to be more than
donated-
that.
No, it's probably done. Actually, we do have it still.
Wait,
We
really?
have that bowl.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's actually at Delphi. It's in pieces. It's bronze, I believe. It's in pieces. We don't have as much of it as we'd like, but I can find a picture. I'm hoping we also see the charioteer here. They had it in the
Is that like
gameplay
a
itself.
Sculpture?
It
statue?
is. It was like a statue. All of these, by the way, way too big. Way too big. They should all be like life size. Same with the charioteer that we're probably going to see in a minute. I think they put it right next to the temple.
Oh, okay.
I think they put it right next to the temple. But yeah, so Delphi, the whole sanctuary is sacrosanct, right? It's very, you can only do certain things in the city, or in this area. And then outside of it is the area of focus, PH.
Yes.
CIS. That's the area around it. And so they are separate from, like, there's no actual, like, governance in this area.
Oh, really?
In the temple and the sanctuary itself, because there's a lot of disputes over who like would own this territory.
Right.
So for the most part, people stay like back from trying to rule it, and the cult rules itself.
Oh, interesting.
Are the statues here like the statues of the eponymous heroes in Athens? Ooh, nice. These are, I think, I'm trying to think. I feel like they are not the eponymous heroes, but it's kind of it's not a message board. So like the eponymous heroes it has a message board for different tribes. This is more of, I think, people that donated. It's the, or maybe it's heroes, but it's from a certain area. It's not in the city. But this was established by like one of the outside Greek groups worshiping or thanking Delphi, the
Yeah.
Delphic Oracle, and so they put up these statues. I'm trying to remember what
Interesting. Oh, well, you look for the pictures.
Yeah.
I'm going to start this.
Yeah, go
On
for
their
it.
journey to the Temple of Apollo, pilgrims walked this sacred path up Mount Parnassus. The summer sun beat down hot on their backs. Along the way, they took in the magnificent monuments, treasuries, and statues that adorned the road. These landmarks were tokens of people's reverence for the oracle's benevolence. All were dedicated to Apollo,
the oracle.
and most were offered by cities to commemorate military
Oh,
victories.
look at that.
The
because
monuments
the oracle
represented
helped
not
them
only
run.
their donors' piety, but also their power and wealth. The sanctity of Delphi has endured to the present day, and visitors still take this very same route.
Yeah, so the people that are in charge of like this kind of area are called the Amphictyonic Council.
Sorry, say
And
that
it's
again?
just the Amphictyonic Council. Yeah,
okay.
it's a fun name. But these are the people that are, they're like a council. They're groups of Greeks as opposed to like one single group of people. It's like a bunch of different people. Monument of the Epigones. That's what it is. Thebes, of course. It's Thebes. Epi means before, and gones means like people that were born. So these are the ancestors that founded Thebes.
Sure.
Yeah, and so we have the foundations for it, and we have the footholds where the statues were standing, but we don't actually have the statues themselves.
Oh, like these little tablet type
Yeah,
things?
so there's gonna be like indentations in the base right there where the feet would have sat.
Oh,
And so
okay.
that can tell us basically, and where the like spear would have been. And
Right.
Stuff. So that can tell us basically, the information. And then there were inscriptions on the bases saying which each one was.
Sure.
So, and we know all of this because Pausanias, actually.
Is that the guy who went
Pausanias
around
is the guy that
documenting all
goes
this?
around everywhere. And he
A weird hobby.
goes to, it's so fascinating though. That's what my class was going to do. We were going to go around Amphictyonic, A-M-P-H-I, Amphictyonic, A-M. I gotta like write it down. It's Amphictyonic. Pen. I swear my microphones are not being held up by bungee cords right now.
Only one.
Amphictyonic. Amphictyonic. Amphyctyonic. Amphictyonic. Amphi means around.
Ah.
Amphictyonic.
Wait, why would that be a good name for it?
The people that are around the area around it.
Wow, that's...
Yeah. The council of the people around. I believe that's the word for it.
It's not a super cool name.
No, I think it's, it sounds cool. It's better than the people
It sounds
living
cool,
around.
but like the meaning of it, it's just
Yeah.
the people who are around.
The Sicyonian Treasury. So treasuries, I think we talked about this when we went to Olympia. Did you go to Olympia in this? It might have been Jason. So in all the major sanctuaries, there are treasuries where cities will, or city-states will, like, they'll set it up so that the people from their city, if they go to Delphi, can leave their dedications there.
Sure.
So that's saying, like, hey, it's not just me leaving it, but look, my entire city, look how great my city is.
Yeah.
And we're told that the Siphnionic treasury, the treasury of the Siphnians, was one of the most elaborately decorated and was one of the most beautiful. And so it should have women, I think.
I don't think it's going to let us in.
But maybe not. Yeah. I thought Chris sworn that this is the one that has, like, women, but maybe it's the Athenian one that has columns that are women, that are caryatids, statues. Yeah, I'm trying to find all this stuff. Is that that one might be the Athenian? No, Noxians maybe? Is it going to tell us?
I don't think so. There's no little marker
That's
around
sad.
it.
I don't want them to tell us what all these are.
Well, maybe this next stop.
We do know where some of them
Oh, wait. This is a lot more statues.
Oh god, these are all of the,
Oh, they're all naked.
yeah, the dedication of the Canadians. So, these are all just, yeah. Canadians, Knidos is an island? But yeah, we're told that it's a bunch of statues of young men, basically, standing almost all in the same pose, and they're all bronze. There's something else important about this one, though.
Like this set of statues?
Yeah. They've almost got them to the right size, but they're
Oh,
just
wait.
a little
Look,
bit too
there's the
large.
columns you're
There it
talking about.
is. Is that the Siphnian one?
I think it is. I
Okay,
think we were
so
just
it's on
looking at it from the
opposite
other side.
Yeah, so it's the opposite side. So that makes me feel better. Not that big. They were not that big. Treasuries. Siphnians. Where are they? Siphnian treasury.
What are you trying to figure out?
I'm trying to find pictures of it. Well, guess we're not. Can't find any pictures. They're good.
Okay, I'm going to start this thing.
Yeah,
One
go
of
for
the
it.
most impressive dedications to Apollo came from the Cnidians, a Greek population that colonized the island of Lipari, north of Sicily. The story behind this
north of
dedication
Ireland.
is notable. The Cnidians were at war with the Etruscans in the Tyrrhenian Sea. Seeking a good omen, the Cnidians consulted the Oracle, and following her advice, they successfully captured 20 enemy ships. To thank Apollo, they offered the god the same number of statues as ships seized.
Oh.
That's right. I remember there was something important about the number.
There's a question in chat that I don't know how to answer.
Did the Theban group of couples already happen? I don't know what that is.
Okay, I don't either. But I figured it was just because I don't know anything about Greece.
But you do.
Sort of.
Okay, so see all these stelae set up? These are actually more like funerary stelae, so they probably shouldn't be there.
Oh.
They kind of are making it look really funeral-like in here, but, whatever. I'm imagining this is the Athenian treasury. Yeah.
Wow.
The Athenian treasury is very cool because it depicts scenes of, I think, Heracles robbing Delphi because he gets mad at the Oracle for, like, not telling him what he wants to know.
It feels like it's going
And
to
so
get you in trouble.
he steals the tripod. So it shows Apollo stealing it back from Heracles. Oh, the Sacred Band of Thebes. Oh, what is their name? God, what's the Sacred Band? The Sacred Band's name in Greek. It's So in timeline, are we talking about, like, has it happened yet, like, in the game, or... I'm not sure what timeline I should be on. That's all.
I don't know what we're talking about still.
Okay. But yeah, the Sacred Band of Thebans is very popular after the Peloponnesian War, when the Thebans get really strong.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only like a 20-year period, honestly. Poor Thebans. And the Thebans before that even had their group of the Sacred Band. And they were kind of, like lovers. You had an older one and a younger one, and the older one kind of was training the younger one. But at the same time, they were lovers, and you wanted to, like...
Training them in what?
Training them to fight.
Oh, okay.
And, like, even even Plato says that the best type of army is one made up of male lovers, because you'll want to, like, not make them ashamed of you. You'll want to prove yourself, and you'll fight better.
That's an interesting strategy.
To kind of be like, oh, I'll fight better for my lover.
I guess.
And I forget what the name of this... Oh, it's going to drive me insane.
What are you trying to think of the name of?
The name of the band, the Sacred Band.
Oh, it had, like, a specific name?
Yeah, it has a name.
Well, real quick, before I hit this purple thing, what's this building?
It's not the Lechki. It may be a bath? Yeah, maybe? Oh, it's the Bulatarion. Oh, sorry. Obviously. What was I thinking? The Bulatarion is where, like, councils are held.
Oh, for the council of people that are just around?
The Fictions. Yeah, the Fiction. Yeah.
Sorry, I can let you finish looking up stuff.
Wait,
I don't know what that meant.
Okay.
Oh, right, the Sacred Band.
Hieros Locos? Oh, that's not right. I feel like there's another name for it. But I guess the internet is only telling me that that's that one. Where are we? Oh, Noxian Sphinx. We actually have that Sphinx.
Where
it's
is
all
the
way
Sphinx?
At the top. All the way at the top. Keep looking up. There it is.
Okay, I was like, it's just a pillar.
Nope, it's all the way at the top, looking over.
I feel like it should have, like, moved my camera for me or something.
It would be nice.
Anyway.
You could climb up there, I think.
Oh, yeah.
If you wanted to. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so Noxos donates it, and the thing about Delphi is that the more money your city gives, and you give, the more you can cut the line.
Oh, like when you're
waiting
there?
Waiting for the oracle. So we actually have inscriptions on the walls right before you get to the temple, which is right here, saying, like, the Noxians get first privilege because of their donations.
Wow.
And so gets
I mean, I don't know why I'm surprised by that, but...
I know, but still, it's just like, really? You're just getting... Money talks, man, every single time.
Spartans were right.
Yeah.
Bad money.
Okay. Yeah, I mean...
Thought there would be more.
I mean, yeah, the Sphinx... We're not in Thebes, though, so we're in Delphi. Thebes is where Oedipus was and causes this whole big issue. And that's where the Sphinx was.
I lost control of the camera. What's this?
Oh, this is very cool. These are the prows of the ships. So if you go in there, those are the beaks of the ships, the ramming ships that were there. I think this is the Persian ones, actually, at Salamis.
Huh.
That were and the Athenians, dedicated it here. Portico to say, like, look, Oracle, we did a good job. We won. We
Thanks for
defeated
your
the Persians.
advice.
Well, actually, the Oracle did not do a very good job.
Oh yeah, didn't she kind of like
screw? She was like, leave, get out, don't do anything, don't fight against them, just get out of here. And so this is kind of an FU in a way. You can share as much as you want. Share.
And also 5 people chat.
Yes, we also want 5 people to chat at the same time, so that I can get... But yes, share as much as you want. We'll probably only be on here for another, like, 15, 20 minutes. But we do this every Monday.
Hungry.
Every Monday, 6 o'clock. I either play this or some other game.
Yeah, I'm glad you texted me because I hadn't noticed what time it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alright.
please share.
Let's learn a fact.
Yes, please.
Or not.
Next to the Naxian Sphinx stood a simple structure to display offerings from the Athenians, most of which were spoils of war. In particular, these offerings, called ex-votos, were prows of sunken Persian ships. The Athenians built the portico after their naval victory over the Persians in 478 BCE.
Was that the naval victory you were talking about where they, like,
Salamis.
tricked them?
Yep. Salamis is that one. Where Themistocles kind of tricks them and everything. So can you imagine, like, hauling, like,
No.
a ship prow? Because those things are made of bronze. Like, the front
Yeah.
is made out of bronze.
For, like,
'cause
ramming
it's
or whatever?
ramming, yeah. So you gotta haul that all the way to Delphi, which
Yeah.
is, like, up a mountain and everything. Plus, like, through all of Greece. But can you imagine, like, the procession that must have, like, accompanied that? People
No.
be like, oh my god, the prows are coming. You can see the ships of the Persians. Like,
Huh.
and then, yeah, they
But
were
this
left
is
here.
before. So this is after the
This
naval
is
battle,
after
but
the
it's still
battle.
is it after the big battle?
Yeah.
Like the land battle too?
Yeah, the
Okay.
Persians
I
are
thought they
gone.
were like celebrating like
Persians are
mid-war.
gone. No, the Persians are gone.
Okay.
There's still worry and fear that they may come back, but
Right.
they've been defeated for this one. On top of that, as well, after the Battle of Plataea, the land battle
Right.
that follows Salamis a year later, at the Battle of Plataea, all the Greeks that were there melt down the spoils
Right.
from the Persians, and they dedicate a tenth of it to build
That pole?
that snake-headed,
Oh,
tripod
those are snake
holder. There's
heads.
a tripod on the top, and then that's a snake, and all of the cities put their name on the snake.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
We have it.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it's still so it gets taken away from, Delphi, and whoa,
I thought this was going to tell me about the snake thing.
no, sadly, Battle of Salamis. Okay, well, okay, so Apollo Salamina is the Apollo that helped them at Salamis, I'm guessing.
Makes sense. Anyway, sorry, snake thing.
No, you're fine. So Snake Thing gets taken to Istanbul.
Not Constantinople.
Well, first Constantinople, now Istanbul. And it is erected there and put up there
Huh.
after, the whole, like, separation of the Roman Empire.
Right.
Also taken is Athena's statue from the Acropolis.
Okay.
Is also taken there. However, we don't have that one. That one got destroyed in a mob riot at some point in Constantinople / Istanbul. This also, the snake column,
Yeah.
unfortunately we only have bits of
Oh.
because it was just left outside. It's still, I think, outside, honestly. Yeah, this is the one that got moved to Constantinople. It's so cool, though. It's just like, I've never gotten to see it, and I really want to see it. We do, I think, have one of the snake heads in Delphi Museum. I feel like it's in the Delphi Museum. But yeah.
Man, there's so much going on here.
Yes, Delphi is one of the, like, richest areas, richest sanctuaries, because everyone wants to appease the Oracle and ask questions of the Oracle, and to do that, you have to give.
Yeah, or else you're in the back of the
Yes.
line.
Yeah.
So, what's... Maybe you've explained this, or the game explained this, and I've just forgotten. What's the deal with tripods?
Tripods are victory monuments.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
so
just like,
tripods-
why are all of
yeah.
these things tripods?
No, tripods are victory monuments, and so they're often seen. Plus, the Oracle sits in one.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
So Pythia sits in one, which is very awkward because
Yeah.
you're like, what are you doing in this thing? Because tripods originally, if you go like all the way back to like Mycenaean Greece, you have like clay tripods that
Sure.
are used for cooking. Eventually, over time, these seem to transform into metal ones that are like given as prizes almost. So in Homer, Achilles is bribed by Agamemnon to get him to fight
Sure.
again, and he says, like, I'll give you 12 giant, like, tripods, 12 bronze tripods. And it seems to be for, like, washing, not really for cooking.
Okay, because I was going to
It's
ask, like,
more
what
of,
functional
like-
purpose do these
Yeah,
things
it's
have?
not really cooking anymore. So they transform from this, like, functional purpose to this
Right.
more, like, symbolic
That's very weird.
kind of thing. Yeah, so tripods tend to be like symbols of.
Would you not just wanted to
victory
like
and-
bribe him with money?
I mean, it's kind of a form of money. You can melt it down,
I guess, yeah.
which is why we don't have a lot of them anymore. I'm thinking if you turn around, there is the sanctuary, or the, oh, it's on the other side probably, is the charioteer is on the other side probably.
Okay.
But
Well, I
yeah,
guess we'll
so
probably
the
head over
altar
that way.
though is behind you. This is the altar.
Oh,
And we're told it's huge. It was huge. It was not as big as like the one at Olympia for Zeus, the giant ash altar. But this one was given, I think, by the Noxians, actually, the people from Noxos, and that's what kind of gave them like first privilege and ability
'Cause they
to cut
gave the
line,
altar?
because they built the altar and everything, and yeah, it's a very fancy altar apparently. We don't have much of it left today.
no.
You know, it's cool nevertheless.
Once arriving before the temple, pilgrims wishing to consult the oracle had to first pay a tax. This
would not
tax
call it a
gave them the
tax.
initial right to
Call it a
approach the
bribe.
altar of Apollo and make an animal sacrifice to the god. But before proceeding to the Pythia, the preliminary ritual had to succeed. If the animal reacted favorably and showed signs of acceptance to the god, it was sacrificed, and the pilgrim would be allowed to enter the temple to question the Pythia.
Animal sacrifice is so fascinating.
Yeah, I had no idea that the animal had to like give a sign that it was like
willing.
cool.
Yeah, and so they would manipulate the rituals to make it that way.
Right, to like get the animal to do
if I
something.
sprinkle like water on an animal, what's it going to do?
I don't
If
know.
I
Shake?
like imagine a dog, yeah, it's gonna shake off. It's gonna go like rough,
Yeah.
like that. That's a sign of like, yes, it wants to be sacrificed.
That
Additionally, if it wanders willingly up to the altar where you're going to kill it, right? So make that altar look appealing. Women
can you like put
would
like feed out on it?
barley. They would throw barley at the animal and on the altar, and they would hide the sacrificial knife in barley
Wow. So you're
to lure that animal.
this feels a very corrupt system. You're just tricking
Yes.
animals into accepting their death.
I'm guessing that Niobe Pandora is one of my former students who maybe graduated recently, who I talk to occasionally. Maybe a little bit. Or it could be, because, yeah, my students have heard me talk about sacrifices many times.
The whole sacrifice system just feels like cheating at this point.
Yeah, it is. It is really. It's like it's all manipulation, and so they
Just to
work
get lied to
these-
by an oracle.
Sadly,
Was that true of all animal sacrifices that they had to be willing? There had to be a pair willing?
yeah. So they have
Okay.
to.
So
appear
not just
willing.
here.
They also cannot be sickly in any way. They got to be the best looking animals.
Right.
So you have to get the healthiest, best looking, cow.
Right.
And then you even gild the horns. Like you put.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you'll put.
It's expensive for an animal
Gold
you're gonna kill.
metal. Yeah, you put like gold on
Yeah.
the horns. You give it wreaths, and put wreaths on it, ribbons. Yeah, you sprinkle it with water, wine, and then as you get up to the altar, you cut a piece of the hair of the mane
Sure.
and
Why
throw
though?
it on the fire as a taste test for the god, so that the god knows what's coming. Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
shouldn't the god already know what's coming?
They're
They
not
don't watch over
omniscient.
they don't watch
They're
over
not
their own
omniscient.
altar?
Well, they can, but you want to tempt them and bring them to you.
Sure.
And gods are limited in time and space, actually, so they can't be everywhere.
Okay.
And so you want to make your sacrifice look as best as you can, better than anyone else's sacrifice. And so to do that, you gotta do all those things. That way you can get what you want from the god. It's all bribery.
Yeah.
Guys. It's all bribery.
Bribes all the way down.
The system's set. long time
At
ago. the
last,
system
we
was set.
arrive at the Temple of Apollo, where the oracle relayed her prophecies. The temple was the
doing
final
this.
destination of those seeking an audience with the Pythia, and its appearance matched the majesty of its purpose. Atop its imposing columns, the structure's pediments displayed famous mythological scenes, sculpted
cool.
by the renowned Greek artist Antenor. But as grand as the temple looked from the outside, it paled in comparison with what happened within.
Are we going in? Are we going in? Are we going in?
Yes.
Yes! You're actually,
Oh,
as a pilgrim, to ask questions, we're not allowed in.
Wait, really?
You had to stay outside. The priest, you asked your question to the priest.
Mm-hmm.
The priest then goes in, talks to Pythia, the woman who's sitting on top of the tripod.
Mm-hmm.
She mutters gibberish. She doesn't even speak Greek.
Right.
She
Wait.
mutters
what?
gibberish. The
Okay.
priest translates it into a poem and then comes out and tells you.
You know what's really funny? I bet the oracle always gave great advice and the priest were just really bad at translating.
That'd be really funny if it's like,
Like-
I said this, guys.
Yeah, the
Why
Battle of
should you,
Thermopylae, she had actually been like, yeah, you should all go fight.
Yeah.
The Persians are here.
Yeah. Be like, go fight. No, go.
And the
they're
priest
like,
was just like,
oh, she said no? Which I think is why, and actually the Delphic Oracle can be bribed and seems to have been bribed.
I was going to say, I thought you mentioned that there was thoughts that she had been
there's
bribed.
several times that it seems pretty clear that the Oracle's been bribed. One is by the wealthiest class of the wealthiest family from Athens that gets kicked out by Pisistratus, that same tyrant.
Yeah.
Kicks out the wealthiest family.
Like, for a reason or just because?
Rival family
Okay.
kind of shit,
So not
Sorry.
like, they didn't like commit some
No,
serious crime or
no,
whatever.
it was just like, oh look, these are really bad guys. Like, I swear, they're really bad. They need to get out of here. Well, let's kick them out. And so that family, this is the Alcmaeonid family. That's the same one that's the family of Pericles. And
Okay.
all of those guys, before Pericles is born. But they go to Delphi and they say, like, look, we're going to build a temple, or we're going to help you build this temple. If we help you build this temple, will you help us get back into Athens?
So that she'll just be like, oh yeah, you should let them back in.
And that's exactly what happens. So later, the Spartans are trying to.
The lighting shifted.
Yeah, the Spartans are trying to get the Oracle to tell them something, and the Oracle's like, I can't tell you anything until you free Athens from that tyrant, Pisistratus.
Oh wow, so it's not just this family gets to go back. It's Sparta go attack Athens.
Yep. And so that's what, Delphi can do. They know that they control the Spartans really easily. So they just say, go put, this family back in there, get rid of this guy.
Wow.
And so they go and they do that. It's so manipulative.
This whole system, just very weird.
Yeah. So you would not be allowed in here, honestly, as a...
Right.
a
Would there be
worshiper.
like guards and stuff probably?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Priest would not let you in.
But these guards, you said, because you said no one really ruled Delphi.
Right.
So
So
these
it's
just
more
part of,
like
like, the
religious
cult
priest
group
kind of, yeah.
thing?
This
What's
is
going
part
on
of
with
the
these
game,
guys?
I think. This is part of the game, because this is like the cult of Kronos or whatever
Yeah.
in the gameplay,
Okay.
which doesn't exist. Not a real thing.
Well, maybe they're just very secretive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never get facts from the stream from me.
It's okay.
They're all made up.
Prophecies were given in the most restricted part of the temple, the Adyton, by a chaste woman known as the Pythia. Before delivering prophecies, she first purified herself with water, then burned laurel leaves and barley flour to begin the ritual. Finally, while seated on a tripod surrounded by offerings, the Pythia delivered Apollo's messages. Her words were often strange and indecipherable, and required further interpretation by the temple's priests. Despite much research, the exact causes of the oracle's behavior while prophesying are debated to this day.
Yeah, so Pythia used to be a younger maiden.
Okay.
It used to always be a woman, a young girl who had not yet been married, was a virgin, yada, yada, yada. Until, I don't remember when they changed it, but at some point they changed it because someone tried to seduce the priestess, Pythia. And so they were like, okay, it can't be young women anymore. It's got to be older women who aren't, easily corrupted like this, who used to be married and, now they don't have any responsibility to their family, and they're going to dress like younger women then. So they dress like younger women,
Interesting.
whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
But they're older women. They're like 50.
Huh.
It's fascinating.
Is that an animal head?
Additionally, okay, so the debate as to... Why are you standing in the fire?
I didn't really notice where I was standing. I was trying to figure out if this is an animal head. I think it is.
Where?
down
Oh,
there?
it could be a Rhyton. It could be a Rhyton.
I don't know what that means.
So a Rhyton is a pouring device, and it's often used
Oh, you
in
said they were like
sanctuary.
animal
Yeah,
faces.
so they could be shaped like animals. They could be shaped like full animals, like a bull or something, or just a bull's head. So that's probably what that is. So yeah, but the debate as to like what. So was she like hallucinating? Was she actually like entranced in some way? Did she believe she was like being held by the god, basically? Because it's like she becomes a vessel, a tongue for the god.
Yeah.
So the question goes on for years and years and years, even today, to the point that archaeologists were reading Pausanias, and Pausanias says that the temple, before it was built, used to have this like chasm or this pit where goats might accidentally fall, and the people that would go down to go get those goats would come back and be like, whoa, I feel like dizzy and hallucinatory.
Weird.
So they think there may have been a gas
Like a leak?
that leaked out from there, and sure enough, it is like the meeting of a couple of fissures is right under this temple.
Oh, that's so cool.
There's also a series of of tunnels under this temple that are very narrow that you can climb through even today. And so there's like, well, then does this mean like these are chambers for the gas to go through? Like, what is this? And then Pausanias tells us even that at one point the oracle loses popularity because it loses the ability to prophesize. And the thought is that there was an
Some
earthquake or something
geological
that had
event, yeah.
closed, that had closed a fissure.
I love the idea that the Pythia is just accidentally getting high.
Yeah, exactly. So she could be getting high. So there's lots of archaeological tests and scientific tests that have been done in
Wow.
the area to figure out, like, was she bathing in a certain spring that maybe was more susceptible to the gas? Yeah, all of this stuff. Like, how hallucinatory can you get? Because a lot of actually Greek rituals require either the follower or a priest to be either intoxicated or in a famine or
Right.
something, or like, fasting, and fasting can cause hallucinations as well. And so it's like, oh, fast for a couple days and then go hike a really long way, and then you're going on a pilgrimage to this one place to go hike, and then all of a sudden you're easily like, ooh, look at all the shiny lights, and it's like, well,
All
yeah,
of
you're
Greek history is
hallucinating.
determined by these hallucinations.
Yeah, all of Greece on drugs.
Oh,
Greece on drugs.
that's
It's really
don't
fascinating.
for university funding purposes. Don't name your next trip to Greece that. Have students
Greece
sign
on
up for
drugs?
Greece on drugs.
Ooh, actually, there is someone at the university that teaches like writers on drugs.
Wait, really?
It's a class,
Huh.
yeah, and it's about writers on drugs. I don't know anything about it, but
And if you go to the driving simulator, you can do drugs and then drive.
and let's try and let's see what happens.
And they make you stay overnight because
God.
it's not safe for you to drive home afterwards. NADS, the National Advanced Driving Simulator.
Well, we have it.
Yep. All right.
All right, let's do this.
Myths say that while searching for an oracle who could impart their words to mortals, Apollo established a sanctuary on Mount Parnassus. Apollo took over this site by slaying its sinister guardian, the snake-like Python.
Wait, that was it?
Yeah, that was weird. But the area, that's why she gets her name Pythia. And Pytho seems to me, we're not really sure. This is kind of where we get the word python,
Right.
though.
Well, yeah, I was hoping.
But the word seems to be like, it means something like I rot, or to rot.
Really?
In ancient Greek, yeah. And so the legend has it that Apollo, so he came to Delphi. He was like, hey, I want to establish an oracle here. I want to establish my temple here. However, it's being guarded by this terrible serpent. And it's also, FYI, a sanctuary to Gaia or Themis, both of which are female gods.
Right.
So Themis and Gaia apparently have control of this area, and he comes in with his like manly macho-ness. He kills the serpent, and
Yep.
then he says, "This is my oracle now." Thanks, Apollo.
So it means I rot or to rot.
To rot, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
because
he kills the dragon or serpent or whatever, and
Sure.
leaves it out to rot.
okay.
It seems like all of that is very like.
I don't know if it was related to venom or something.
No, well maybe. Oh, that'd be interesting. But I don't know how many venomous like. Well, I know there's at least one venomous snake in Greece today. Because everyone freaks out whenever we hear that it might be coming by when we're on digs and stuff.
Is it big?
No.
Oh, that makes it kind of scarier.
Yeah, it's...
Nope.
Yeah, not great.
Also, snakes are weird.
Yeah. But snakes, symbol of resurrection in ancient Greece.
Oh, right, and that
Mortality.
stupid snake pit.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me think if there's anything else I want to say before we...
Oops.
No, it's fine.
I
It's
didn't-
fine.
I thought
We're
I'd-
going on 2 hours and I'm starving.
I thought I'd have to
You
hit
now
X.
understand how important this sanctuary was, and how it affected the
rigged
lives of
this
people both
sanctuary
in the Greek
was.
world and beyond its borders. To be honest, I could speak about Delphi all day. But what would
Me
you
too.
like to do now?
Take a quiz.
Ah,
Let's take
you wish to
quiz.
test your knowledge. Let's begin with a simple question.
Okay.
What did the oracle use to purify herself before her predictions?
Water.
Not
Fire
flames.
was used to burn laurel leaves and barley flour.
I just had to see what
before
he'd
the
say.
Yeah.
production, But
He's
not
not.
for
He's not as
purification.
snarky as Leonidas was.
No,
different
or
answer.
Marcos.
Yeah.
Correct. The oracle used water for purification. Time for another question. Which god was believed to speak through the oracle at Delphi?
I mean, we literally just. That was the very last fact.
Yes, the oracle allegedly spoke the words of Apollo, which were then interpreted by priests. One final
It's weird that the
question for you.
Greek gods weren't speaking
Delphi
Greek.
is situated on which mountain?
Maybe they
Parnassus.
were aliens.
What?
Maybe
Oh.
they were aliens.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Correct. Delphi stood on the slope of Mount Parnassus. Well done, traveler. Your
Yay.
knowledge
I feel like they
rivals
could've
that of the
asked us
wisest
a lot more
philosophers.
relevant
Yeah,
questions.
those seemed.
But okay, whatever. No big deal.
Well,
There is so much in this that, like, literally could spend hours talking about.
I'm surprised there were
Delphi,
only
because
7
they do some
spots.
really good stuff. Like there's the Lechki of the Canadians, which
As you
is
wish. It has been a pleasure sharing Delphi with you.
sorry, I was gonna go
No,
by
it's
and
fine.
try and find the
no,
charioteer.
it's like yeah, I think it's on the other side, the charioteer. But the Lechki is it's got paintings, mythological paintings that are really cool. And there it is. Not that big. Not that big. It's pretty much life size.
Yeah,
So
this looks cooler.
yeah, I mean sure. It also probably wasn't right in front of. I think Pausanias says it was near, but I don't think he says it was right in front of it. Yeah, and it's dedicated after a tyrant, in Gela, which is in Sicily. He won a race, and so he
race.
was like, yeah, I'm gonna make this, and he does. I know.
Well, we've done 3
We
tours,
did 3 tours.
and
thank
it
you.
was only 2 hours.
It was only 2 hours, and I'm hungry.
Yeah, me too. I
Yeah.
can like feel my stomach like rumbling.
I'm gonna, and there's pizza waiting for us, so we're gonna go. But hopefully next week.
Yeah, I think
And
I'm
if
free.
not, then I'll play Old World. No big deal.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm free
I'm
next
not
week.
gonna keep playing. I'm sorry. It's been 2 hours, guys, and I'm hungry, and I don't want to make noises like mouth noises.
Yeah, like eating.
No one wants that. No one wants that. All right. So until next week.
Yay! Thanks for watching.
So long. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.